Okay, so we're actually going to let Maddi Leblanc lead this interview for the Athletes Podcast. Okay,
Oh, for
Maddi,
sure.
Uh-oh.
tell us about who you are, what you've done, and just what an incredible human being you are.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. That's like probably one of the nicest intros I've gotten in a while.
I got to be unique somehow. Come on.
Absolutely. Yeah, great question. I'm 23 years old. I'm from Welland, Ontario, Canada. I'm currently completing my master's of outdoor recreation at Brock University, and I am also a semi-sponsored stand-up paddleboarding athlete. So I love competing. I love teaching as well. I'm certified WPA level 1 SUP instructor, and I teach a program called SUP Kids in Niagara on the Lake. So yeah, lots of stuff going on.
All while also completing your master's currently at Brock University as well, right?
That's right.
Yeah, just as a side note. So how were you able to balance all of these things right now? And what are you working on a day-to-day basis? Take me on a day's journey of what Maddi's day looks like, other than today hanging out in Nodal with the fam.
That's right. Yeah, I guess it really depends on what season I'm in. So the off season looks very different than my on season for racing. But because of COVID, we all know all of our lives have been changed dramatically. So I guess like most recently what my days look like are I wake up, I go to the gym, I train for about an hour, I get ready for work, I teach SUP kids from 9 to 5 in Niagara on the Lake. So I spend my whole day with children, and it's 90% swimming, 10% paddling. It's so much fun. Yeah, and then I go home, I stretch, I do yoga, so kind of like the second half of my training. And then if I'm not doing that, then I'm off to a private lesson. So I'll teach at night, even when I'm off the water with my kids. And then I eat somewhere in between all that, and I sleep. So
your life is revolving around the stand-up paddleboard and being around that in some capacity, basically every moment that you're awake during the day.
Absolutely.
That's incredible. So, and I think it's safe to say that your passion for stand-up paddleboard is incredible. And basically, I think the definition you sent me here is strong, barely controllable emotion. And that is the definition of passion. And I think that you have the ability to just love this sport more than anyone that I've ever seen. And it's so cool to watch and see your passion shine through just through social media. And as a Brock grad, I was like, when you received this award for Stand-Up Paddleboard's Woman of the Year, which, yeah, by the way, let's mention that, because you talk about what that's brought up, because I haven't even, alluded to that yet, and you're too humble to bring it up. But what has that meant to receive that award?
Oh my gosh. Actually, it's very funny you asked that question, because somebody asked me that this morning as well. And I was still kind of speechless. Like I didn't actually really know how to answer the question at first. But I think like the award, it means so much more than just myself. Like it means like all the hard work that my friends and my family have put into my own athletic career and my passions too, like to have the job at SUP Kids and to be able to do what I love every day. Like I get paid to play, and I'm so lucky and I'm so fortunate. So I think the award, like, yeah, it's pretty cool that I got recognized, but it's because like so many people were behind me and to support me doing all those things. So yeah.
You've definitely gone above and beyond for the sport itself, and being only 23, it's going to be amazing what you're able to accomplish over the next couple of decades too, because that's one of the beauties of stand-up paddleboard. I feel like anyone can do it, right?
Absolutely. Like we get so many people who walk up to us in Niagara on the Lake because our rental van, it's right there. And they say, oh, that looks so hard. Like, I don't think I could stay on a board. And I'm just like, no. Like, it's so easy. Like, it's not as hard as it looks. Like, it's fantastic. It's so much fun.
So are you guys just renting out boards through your van there? And then is that a family business? Is that just what you've been involved with? And should I be coming down there next weekend before we leave the AP tour? Should we put it in the calendar or what?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, I'm very biased. I definitely think you
Okay.
should come. But yeah, so I work for a company called Paddle Niagara, and it's owned and operated by Tim Bala, who is a Noddle local. He lives and breathes Niagara on the Lake. And I was very fortunate to meet him back in 2016. And then in 2017, he offered me the job with SUP Kids. So we run out of this mobile van. We're literally just a van parked at the top of Queens Royal Park. So we get to overlook the lake every day and check out the conditions, see what we've got to work with. And yeah, we can fit 17 boards in that van, which is shocking, but it's
Damn.
pretty cool.
That's a little
Yeah.
fun fact for you, hey? That's
Right?
maxed out. There's no extra space after that, is there?
Absolutely not.
That's
I
jam
wish there
packed.
was. Yeah.
So you launched on board in 2014, and it's been an event that's been run annually. Obviously, you continued on that tradition this year. What does that event mean to you? And tell us a bit of the backstory from your perspective.
Yeah. So on board, I would say, again, it's not just myself, but it's a very family founded initiative. And it all started, I guess you could say, kind of from a tragedy back in 2011. So I lost two really good friends of mine to two different types of cancer. Lynn Lambert, she was my next door neighbor, and she passed away when she was 37 due to a rare form of skin cancer. And then later on that same year, my classmate Julia Turner, she had passed away at the age of 15 due to glioblastoma, which is a very aggressive form of a brain tumor. So when you're diagnosed with that, it's very, very tricky and very complicated to recover from. So we all kind of knew when she was diagnosed that it was going to be a long, tough road. And she battled with it for 7 months and then passed away 2 days before Christmas, actually, in 2011. So to lose two people, like so close to not only myself, but the community of Welland was just absolutely heartbreaking. And I would say the next year, I was pretty sad. Like I honestly, I had no idea like some days how to get out of bed because I was that sad. And one day my parents just kind of came up to me and they're like, okay, Maddie, like knock it off, like your friends, they wouldn't want you to live your life like this. They wouldn't want you to be sad because they passed away. Like they'd want you to be so happy and inspired by the unique lives that they both lived because they both were all for Welland. Like Julia, she would volunteer at the Hope Center all the time. So she was always giving back to people in need. And Lynn Lambert was a high school teacher at Welland Centennial Secondary School. So she taught French and yeah, she inspired a lot of students. So yeah, my family and I were like, okay, how can we give back to two people who meant so much to our community? And yeah, a year later in 2013, I was able to receive my first stand-up paddleboard. And I think the timing of it all just kind of came together perfectly. Because the first time I took it out on the Welland Canal, I looked down at what I was standing on and I was like, oh my gosh, like it was just like a light bulb moment. Like, why don't I create a fundraiser out of what I'm standing on? And yeah, then a year after that, On Board was born in 2014.
That's incredible. And now having raised over $40,000 for the Canadian Cancer Society, it's incredible to see what you've been able to accomplish. And, having it go through and be inspired through two individuals. And obviously that is a tragedy to only the city of Welland, but Niagara as a whole. It's amazing to see someone do something like that and be able to just do it through a passion of theirs as well. And now it's a sport that you've now been participating in for the last half decade over that, and you're excelling in it too. You're representing our country, right? Like that's incredible. That's amazing. So I'm a big fan. I fully support everything that you're doing, and I think it's so cool that you're able to basically just have this overarching connection with the stand-up paddleboard. Ultimately, that's the way I'm looking at it, and I'm just kind of wrapping my head around it. It's so cool.
Well, that
How
means a lot to me. So thank you very much.
it was a long-winded compliment on my part, but
Very
the
much appreciated.
I'm always, so I'm actually one of the things that I've started doing with the podcast and like talking with these athletes is I like to work out a whole bunch. So I'm trying to do all these different sports, make more videos for it. We're going on a tour in a week to, different cities to try and work out with new athletes and podcast with them and doing podcasts, all these random things. But I tried paddleboarding last year and I was not great at it.
Where did you try it? I would love to know.
Well, so we rented paddle boards at the Buffalo Canoe Club where my full-time job is.
Okay, I know exactly where that is.
Good old Fort Erie, Crystal Beach, Ridgeway.
I have paddled there actually quite a bit because quarantine, like that was the only place I could paddle essentially. So I loved it
Yeah,
out by that way.
yeah. Come by the Canoe Club anytime. The Buffalo Canoe Club. It's a very amazing area. But so I was atrocious. Back to the point, I sucked. I was like, I couldn't believe I almost was falling off, and I was like, man, these people make these items look so easy to maneuver, and I'm like, this is not an easy balancing act here, and you guys are racing on them.
It's pretty funny. Like some people look at my race board and they're like, that is literally a balance beam on the water. And it has taken me a long time to get used to. But basically there's different boards for different purposes and for different riders as well. So I like to explain it as like, it's the same thing, like a hockey stick, because we're in Canada and we love hockey.
Yeah,
like you're not just going to go
100%.
out and buy like any hockey stick, right? You're going to buy one that works with your flex because there's a certain amount of flex to the shaft, right? You're going to cut it down to your proper size. A paddleboard's the same thing. You're going to buy equipment that is suitable to the conditions that you're paddling in. Like I'm so curious to know like if the lake was choppy that day or how wide was the board, what was the shape of it, like
There was
so
6
curious.
foot swells. It was insane. They were coming over the top. It were white caps. It was craziness. Could barely see over them. It was crazy.
It sounds like you should have been surfing that day.
Yeah, I swear I was heading down the Niagara River and it was Buffalo on my right. I was going under the Peace Bridge. I was gone.
Oh no.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't have balance. Clearly, I need to work on it. That's one of the things I'm working on in the gym. Got my butt kicked by F-45 Niagara on the Lake this morning, actually.
Oh, get out. I want to go there. I have a friend who works there.
Have you done one of those yet?
No,
Oh,
I haven't.
it was hard.
Yeah.
I realized I've been slacking in my workouts lately, and the intensity, just in the amount of rest time I give myself, is maybe a bit too much.
Honestly, actually, story of my life. I was in Toronto last weekend for an ISA SUP and surf instructor life-saving course, and we had to complete. No big deal.
Okay, yeah. Continue.
But yeah, we had to complete this physical test that was 100-meter run, 50-meter swim, 100-meter run, 50-meter swim, 100 run, 100 swim. And the time limit was 5 minutes. And I'm like, just like,
count me out of that one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But I'm actually shocked that I thought I could do it. Like I walked into that. I'm like, okay, like you run, you swim, you don't do it back to back like that, but you might be able to do this. Oh my God, absolutely not. I got crushed. Like I did the test 3 times and all time I never made the 5 minutes.
Why did they make you do it 3 times, or was that just you wanting to?
Yeah. Basically, well, the second time I did it, that was me really wanting to, because I think that's where like my competitive nature comes out. Like I hate losing. Like I do not like it at all. And first time I failed it, yeah, I felt like I had lost. Like I felt like someone said, okay, you came in last. And I was like, okay, I got to try this by the end of the day. I got to try this before I leave. And I did, and I beat my time, but it still wasn't under 5 minutes. And so they were like, it's okay, Maddi, you can come back tomorrow. Like you still have a whole day of training tomorrow. So you can do it tomorrow morning. And I'm like, okay. And my friends are texting me. They're like, you want to go out tonight? And I was so serious. I'm like, no, like, gotta go to bed early. Gotta drink lots of water. Like, I gotta pass this test.
Isn't
And
that amazing how did you, so you didn't on the third try even either?
no, my
Ah,
first time was 5:38. My second time was 5:30, and then my third time I was like 5:12 or something. So I was like, I did much better, but I like just wasn't there, and I was so upset.
it's amazing what just practicing something like that a couple of times, how much time you can shave off of it too. When you learn like how to approach the workout better too, right? Because you probably were
Absolutely.
saving energy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
Like you asked me to paddle for like 2, 3, maybe even 4 hours, and I'll be like, yeah, sure, like no problem, I got this, and then can't even complete a 5-minute physical swim
li-
test. Oh my gosh.
little different on the workout scale though, and the exertion that you're going on that 5 minutes. I couldn't do 50-meter swims if I had to. Actually, I could do it, but it would be difficult. I don't swim well either. Clearly, we're
Yeah.
just identifying a lot of things that I need to work on, but this is good. Well, you'll have to get me out and teach me how to paddleboard and swim.
The exposure of David, I love it.
Normally, I don't talk about this stuff on this podcast as much about me, but you know what? We're going with it. Um, what? So, can you talk a bit about your master's research? Because I'm curious, just from a intellectual perspective, on what you're doing with rec and leisure studies.
hmm Actually, yeah, it's kind of a funny story. I graduated last year from the University of Waterloo in the Faculty of Environment, Resources, and Sustainability. And through that program, I had to complete an undergrad thesis. And so I was interviewing anybody who was considered a stand-up paddleboarder. And I was interviewing them to see if like them being involved in the sport made them want to become an environmentalist. Like, does stand-up paddling make people want to be stewards of the environment? And I was on the phone with this lady named Sarah O'Connell, and she was like, hey Maddie, like, do you know my husband Tim? And I was on the phone, and I just kind of paused. I was like, no, like, who's Tim? Like, like just randomly halfway through this interview, she's just like, you know my husband Tim? I'm like, no. And she's like, oh, he's a professor at Brock University in the Department of Recreation and Leisure Studies. I think you would be very interested in his research. And I said, oh, that's really cool. Like, thank you so much. And then just went on with her interview, and actually kind of forgot about Tim for a while. But then nearing like the end of my undergrad, I realized that I wanted to go to Brock, because Brock for me is home. Like, being in the Niagara region, I
Mm.
just wanted to come back home so that I could focus on paddling. But I was actually looking at, there's a master's of sustainability that Brock has. So I was
Mhm.
looking at that. And then looking at that, I was like, oh yeah, this random lady told me to like contact this guy named Tim. So I called him and I told him about my undergrad thesis and what I'm doing. And he said, well, Maddie, if you need a supervisor next year, like, I'd be more than happy to take you on if you want to do your master's in recreation and leisure. And a lot of what your research topic is recreation. So he's like, if you want to switch streams, like, you don't have to stay on the environment track. And
Mm.
that just blew my mind. Like, I actually didn't even
Yeah.
think about recreation and leisure
Nice.
as a field. Like, I would just had this perspective of the environment, and I thought, hey, you know what, why not? Like, why not change it up
Hmm.
for my master's? So um
Definitely.
yeah, long story short, I'm underneath Dr. Tim O'Connell in RecL.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's my
Yeah.
former, I guess, what is the faculty of applied health sciences? I was in the sport management program. So similar to
Okay.
how you guys have the recreation and leisure, this is we're just the meatheads in SPEMA over there
The
that
SPIMA
struggle with
guys,
SPEMA.
yeah.
Yeah, stereotypical SPEMA guy, if you haven't noticed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you guys have a reputation, but it's a good one because I love talking to everybody in SPIMA. Like, they give me such a different perspective on the sport of SUP. So I feel very like well-rounded at Brock. Like, you guys are awesome. So
Okay, so what are I want to hear the furthest end on one side and furthest on the other as far as what the SPEMA guys have talked about for SUP. because I want to hear these differing views, and I'm interested and curious because I think there's people that do have a very like one-sided view of stand-up paddleboarding, and then there's others that can see it as a real benefit from an athletic standpoint. But tell me what some of the varying views are that you've seen.
Ooh, actually, yeah, there's quite a bit. I would say, oof, like a lot of literature that relates to lifestyle sports can be transferred to SUP. So when I kind of came in, a lot of the guys were like, oh, well, have you ever looked at it from like a gender standpoint? Like, what are the participation numbers between men and women, racers, SUP surfers, yoga enthusiasts? So what do the actual statistics of the people participating in the sport look like? Which again, I never thought of. I like, I never
Yeah.
took a step back and thought, wow, like what do the numbers look like? Like what do the participants themselves look like?
And what was the answer to that? Now I'm curious.
I wish I had an answer. Maybe if we come back to this in like 5 years, I might.
Okay. Is there more females or males doing it?
Leisurely, there's more females.
Okay.
Racing, there's way more males. Like, yeah,
Interesting.
it's incredible the amount of men compared to women racers. Like,
Why is
it's
that?
I I don't know. That's like it's such a great question, but I think um it might have to do something with the conditions. I feel like
Okay.
because some races, like especially when I went to China, like you've got lots of swell, you've got lots of waves, lots of choppy conditions, and maybe from a beginner standpoint, that might intimidate a female. But even then, I feel hesitant saying that because I know some pretty badass
Mm.
females. So
Yeah.
um, it's a tough call. I don't know. I really don't know.
Is the sport growing in the sense for younger athletes? Are there more opportunities for them to like stand up paddleboard racing available for young athletes as well? Is that something that we're going to see more and more grow as time goes on?
Well, definitely from my perspective and working with children every day and being able to talk to them and actually kind of push them into the race scene, I think it'll grow. But I also think that's a very biased view. Um,
Yeah.
but I think locally around here, like I race in a series called the Ontario SUP series, and
Okay.
children are allowed to race free. So there's lots of
Nice.
opportunity. Yeah, like it's
That's
incredible.
amazing.
Like the doors
That's so
open.
good.
Yeah. So I hope it
That's
grows.
that's one of the things we learn in SPIMA is eliminating barriers to entry. And if you can create a sport and have something that's readily available with water, that's not going away. Hopefully, anytime soon. And as long as you got your board, the boards are expensive though. That's one of the barriers. So how
Yeah.
are we gonna fix that, Maddie? What are we gonna do?
What are we going to do? That's a great
Are we,
question.
how are we gonna create a $200 board that everyone can afford?
I would love to because I am so sick and tired of people being like, I just bought my board from Costco. And I'm like, no, that board's not going to last. Like, it's
Right?
really tricky in the world of SUP. Like, you do not have an in between for cost of products. Like, you either
Mm,
have the $200 board from Costco that's going to last you maybe a year or two because it's just not built well, and then you have the boards that are built well, like a surfboard. They're handcrafted, they're very specialized, they're covered in carbon fiber, epoxy, resin, glass. Like they're made out of these sustainable materials. um, but oh man, yeah, they run at least like 1,500 and up. Like, and race boards too, race boards are crazy expensive. So like
it's a
I
new set of
know.
golf clubs for Dave, so I can tell you where my money's going.
Right, it's exactly it. It's like a lot of other sports where
Yeah.
it's so expensive to get into, but then once you're into it and you have the gear, it's accessible. But how do you
Hmm.
overcome that first barrier? It's a great question.
Where's the coolest place that stand up paddleboarding has brought you? Because you seem to have been a now well world traveled individual.
Well, I think we're still working on that. I have so many other places I want to go and see and paddle in. um China was incredible. The South China Sea was amazing. But I think I'd have to say one of the coolest places I've been to was actually Sydney, BC.
Mm.
I was there. You might
Oh,
know where Sydney is.
yeah, 100%. Okay,
Yeah.
continue.
I went there last year to compete, to have a spot on Team Canada for the 2019 year, at nationals. And so it was just
Wow.
like that town felt like home. You know, it's like this small
Yeah.
like fishing community that's so quiet. But my brother came with me and we talked to so many people there and local shop owners. And like 3 people we met were from Niagara. It was insane. Like a lady
No
was from
way.
St. Catharines, another guy was from Stony Creek. I'm like, and now you're all the way out here? This is incredible. But the ocean there, oh, it was just breathtaking. Like the islands, the whales, the sea lions, the jellyfish, like, and the water was really cold though. It was really
That is
cold.
the Pacific Ocean.
That's
Not a
correct.
lake, very different. Yeah. The
But yeah.
having the West Coast is so amazing, and I growing up on basically on Vancouver Island on our at our cabin, on White Rock Beach. I just so fortunate to be able to grow up there, and I didn't actually recognize that and realize, and I took it for granted because as a kid you're growing up and you don't realize that you've got all of this amazing land-made infrastructure readily available for you to use, in a beach, in the mountains, like you got everything there, and it is incredible. And Victoria, Sydney, BC is just like Vancouver Island, incredible. Can't beat the West Coast and what it has to offer as far as from an environment perspective, and obviously that's your jam.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Like I wanted to go to Tofino so bad on that trip, but I
Ah,
didn't
you
have
missed it.
time. I missed like Canada's surf mecca.
Okay,
Like,
so here's what we're gonna do. I'll come to Niagara, do that stuff because I'm here already. But then next time I'm back in BC, we'll rip out to Fino, and then we'll go surfing, and that'll be our challenge because I need to figure out how to do water sports.
yeah. Sounds like a good plan. I love it,
Right?
David. This is gonna be
This is
awesome.
what happens with the Athletes Podcast now when we have ideas flowing, and this is what it's gonna be. We're creating video content like this podcast tour that we're going on. We've got a couple athletes confirmed, but like Natalie Allport, who we've had on it previously, I'm just gonna go work out with her up in Ottawa for this trip. I've got hopefully some connections coming through with some Habs players, maybe doing some workouts, but just random things. So I got to learn these water sports, and why not learn it from the best, like Maddie, you know?
Oh. Well, now I'm blushing.
Yeah. So what's on the plan moving forward then for you? Obviously you're still so young, but you've got all these things under your belt now. What do you plan on doing in the next decade? It's the ultimate end goal.
That's that's a great question. I feel like I'm trying to figure that out for sure for myself because
Mm-hmm.
I have like just within SUP, I have so many passions and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to think like which one do I want to focus on because I am like I commit to one thing and I'm like full steam ahead kind of person. Um
Clearly, it sounds like.
yeah, so I think what's cool about SUP is like I'm 23 years old, but there's still lots of room for me to grow as a professional athlete. Like I'm semi-pro right now, but I want
Mm-hmm.
to get to the highest level. SUP, very excitingly, just got accepted underneath the organization called the ISA, which is the International Surfing Organization.
Mm-hmm.
And that basically means that now SUP can go to the Olympics because for the
No
longest
way.
time it couldn't because the ISA and the ICF were arguing like who gets to have the right to have SUP. But now because it's actually underneath an organization, like the ISA won the right to govern it, it could go to the
Mm-hmm.
Olympics. So I'm kind of like, ooh, that's on my radar. Like maybe I want to train to be there one day.
100%. 100%.
Yeah,
Because
and
what
everyone's
that
like, you
would be,
should.
yeah, that'll be, well, so theoretically, would they open it then for next year if it's been accepted, or would that be 2024 then?
Oof,
Am I
yeah, I
wrong on
think
my years?
I think it would honestly be past 2024.
Oh yeah,
just
they're probably gonna have
because,
to accept it, go all through all those policies, procedures. But yes,
yeah.
in my opinion, because you know what, it's a sport now, so let it into the Olympics.
Absolutely. Like it was the dumbest argument between the two organizations. Like the ICF is the International Canoe Federation. And they were
Okay,
saying, well, because you're holding a paddle, the craft is considered a canoe. It's a paddle sport. But then you had the
naturally.
ISA, right? Who was like, well, excuse me, like we're surfers over here. Like SUP boards are designed from surfboards. It comes from French Polynesian culture where people would get
Mhm.
around on a SUP board. Like their ancestors
Oh,
were doing it for years, like on waves. So the ISA was like, well, I think we should have the right to govern it because it's more surf than canoe. And
mm.
oh man, I think, yeah, this was an argument for at least like 7 or 8 years that finally came
That's
to an end
amazing.
like a month ago. So yeah.
That's incredible. 8 years over who got to govern it.
Yeah.
Holy Dinah. What so do you consider yourself when people ask you what do you do? Do you say you're a surfer?
No.
Okay, I was
I
gonna say
don't.
this.
Yeah.
So you say you're a stand-up paddleboarder. Are you a supper?
Yeah. Yeah. And people are like, wait, what? You're hungry? And I'm like, no.
Yeah,
Like, or the amount
we
of
gotta
times I
coin
get the
that.
like, right? Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The amount of like jokes you can make out of sup, it's crazy.
How has this not taken over social media memes as far as within athletics? Maybe we have to start this too. So many ideas coming from this podcast.
It's yeah, you know what? It's actually incredible. And I think that's why again, like I love talking to SPEMA people because they get it. Like they see the uniqueness of the sport, how it's still growing. It has so much room to grow. And
Hmm.
we're getting there. We're getting there and it's slow and it's steady, but it'll be pretty cool to see where it is in 10, 20, 30 years from now. But I just hope to still be doing it for as long as I live.
Yeah, 100%. And I like the fact that it's something that people can do at any age or at any real physical ability, right? There's not many barriers to entry, like we said. We had actually, I don't, do you know, are you familiar with Brad Petrus? He just did a 50
Yes.
kilometer.
Oh my
That
gosh.
name just came to me.
I love Brad. Okay, so Brad like lives on Lake Erie, and that's why I was able to get out towards Crystal Beach,
Yeah.
Ridgeway, Port Colborne, like all those little sections of the lake. Because I would just launch at Brad's house. I'd be like, Brad, I'm coming over today. He's like, all right, like beach is wide open. Like you can park
Yeah,
in my
Jordan, see if
driveway.
Jordan, see if you can figure out exactly what he was doing because he launched from the canoe club. I believe it was Saturday morning
Yes,
to do a 50-kilometer sup
challenge.
ride.
Yeah, he
Petrus, Jordan.
yeah. Yeah, he paddled for it was called the Lake Erie paddle challenge or Lake
Yeah.
Erie challenge, something like that. And so he was a part of a team that raised funds just to kind of like give back to the Great Lakes and most
Hmm.
specifically Lake Erie and to raise awareness about pollution in our Great Lakes.
Right.
And
Okay.
yeah, we had a few guys last year in our network that paddled in Turkey Point, but this year
Yeah.
they really focused on people around Fort Erie and Port Colborne, and that's why they
Yeah.
asked Brad to do it. And he's such a great guy. Like he's the perfect person to do that paddle. And yeah, I think
It's
he finished it in the Niagara River. So
yeah.
yeah, that's
It
him.
was
Yeah, that's Brad.
yeah. So it's hilarious how this just connected because I only knew about this because of we talked about it in our managers meeting at the Buffalo Canoe Club where my job is. So now
Yeah.
I'm going through and I made the connection. I'm like, wait, this just happened at my work. Let's try and bring it up on podcast right now. And it makes now it's awesome because I'm making this connection and
Yeah.
it's so cool when how sport can do that.
Well, actually, it's so funny. When you told me that you worked at the Buffalo Canoe Club, I was like,
Hmm.
Brad. Like the first person that
Yeah.
came up, I was like, Brad.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think he's a member there and his dad's a sailor. So I know
Hmm.
he launches from there too quite a bit on his dad's sailboat. And yeah,
Yeah,
he's a pretty cool guy.
it's a beautiful area that we're very fortunate, again, very fortunate to live and work in an area like Crystal Beach like that. it's beautiful down in Point Abno there. It's
Oh,
one of a kind.
yeah.
People don't know. It's Niagara's hidden gem.
Oh, it's so true. Like Brad and I, we did a paddle there in the spring in May, and we launched at the canoe club, and then we paddled
Yeah.
around the lighthouse. And actually, it was kind of funny. It played a big trick on us in the sense like we knew it was going to be shallow, but we didn't think it was going to be that shallow. So like my fin actually was scraping the bottom, so I kind of had to like walk out a little bit. I was like, okay, not too close to the lighthouse. And
Yeah,
oh, the fish though, like the amount of bass that we could see, like incredible. Like
it's
it's a
crazy.
stunning area. Yeah,
It's
it's really
crazy.
cool.
Such a good area to paddleboard too. It's so calm. It's
Absolutely.
amazing. What a
Yeah.
place. Niagara region. I love it. It's got me hooked right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Heck yeah. Yeah. We're
Most
talking
people
about the
are
West
like,
Coast.
I
Now we're
know,
like,
I know. It's cheaper to live out here. That's what it comes down to right now. Money.
it's very true.
Um, so Maddie, you dedicate all of this time to inspiring others and being just this incredible person. I really appreciate you coming on the Athletes Podcast and sharing what you have and the knowledge that you have. It's incredible. One of the kind of questions that we wrap up these podcasts with is what kind of tips, tricks, pieces of advice would you give to the younger generation? And how would you give that to them right now on the Athletes Podcast?
Yeah. Oh, I love this question. I love when people ask me this because I think my journey specifically in the sport of SUP was so unique. Like I started competing when I was in my third year of my undergrad. So I think I would have been like 18. And for a lot of people in sport, that may seem like a late time in life to kind of enter a new sport and to be competitive. But within 5 years, it's like I've been able to become semi-pro. Like I think just like communicating the message that if you're passionate about something and you really work hard and you dedicate your time towards it, I don't think it matters what age you are. I think it just matters that you have this fire, and how are you going to feed it? How are you going to achieve those goals is really what counts. And I think surrounding yourself with great people, specifically for SUP, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because we get to spend all of our days on sunny beaches by the water most of the time that makes the community so welcoming and friendly and supportive of each other. Reach out to people, like don't be afraid to network. I think my first year racing, I actually didn't even own my own board. I just literally showed up at races and I was like going to different sponsors and to different tents, and I just was like, hey, does anybody have a board I can borrow? Like, and I raced on
Wow.
anything, like inflatables. I raced on like a touring board once, like not even a race board. Like I guess for me, I didn't know it at the time, but my passion was so strong that I was like, I'm going to do anything to get myself involved. And I think now that SUP is growing, there's a lot more ways you can be supported. Like, I don't think you just have to do what I did necessarily,
Yeah.
and just go up to anybody. But I think you can find the right people and get yourself connected to get in, because it's incredible. So
I love it. I love the passion. I love the energy that you have. It's so cool. And we're gonna have to do a second one of these podcasts where we do it and we record it while we're out paddling and we're in your natural environment. Okay.
heck yeah, we're gonna need like flat water though, because on a mic, like the the waves might be a little. Ugh.
Oh shoot. Well, there won't be 6-foot white caps, but we'll make sure it's a calm day.
That's right. Yeah, we got to get you out on like a calm day, a good board, a good
I'll be
paddle
doing
too.
yoga poses. I'll be flying around out there. Be no
Oh
problem.
yeah, tree pose all the way. Like totally
I
doable.
I make a mean tree.
That's awesome.
Well, Maddi Leblanc, thank you very much for coming on the Athletes Podcast. You're an amazing human being. Thank you for everything that you do and for stand-up paddle boards and the sport that it's going to become. Thank you again for coming on the Athletes Podcast.
Well, thank you so much for like giving me this opportunity to come and to share my story. And I'm so stoked to like be on this podcast. So thank you very much. It was so much fun talking to you guys for a bit.
This is my pleasure. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's my name, so www.maddileblanc.com, but there's no E. It's just Maddi. And then my Instagram is at Maddie3Leblanc. And Facebook, I'm at Maddie's Ride on Board. So yeah,
Amazing.
lots of places you can hit me up.
Awesome. Well,
Let's go for
yeah,
paddle.
perfect. Well, I look forward to it. Thank you again, Maddie, for coming on. Really appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your night. And we'll see you guys all soon.